When the bicycle of the Lord, bearing his messenger with a telegram for Sister Mary Bradley saying, "Come home," arrived at 113 West 134th Street, New York City, Sister Bradley said, "Boy, take that wire right back to St. Peter because I'm not prepared to go. I might be a little sick, but as yet I ain't no ways tired." And she would not even sign for the message, since she had read it first while claiming she could not find her glasses to sign the slip. "For one thing," said Sister Mary, "I want to stay here and see what this integration the Supreme Court has done decreed is going to be like. Since integration has been, ages without end, a permanently established custom in heaven," the messenger boy replied that her curiosity could be satisfied quite easily above. But Sister Mary said she wanted to find out how integration was going to work on Earth first, particularly in South Carolina, which she was planning to visit once more before she died. So the messenger boy put his wire back in his pocket and departed. "Come home," said Sister Mary. "I got plenty of time to come home when I get to be 80 or 90 or 101. Of course, when I wake up some morning and find my own self dead, then I'll come home. Right now, you got to understand me, Lord. I'm so tangled up in the living, I ain't got time to die." So I'm sharing with you the opening passage to the Sweet Flypaper of Life. And this is a wonderful little Sunday afternoon read with these really great pictures from DeCarava. And the text itself is by Langston Hughes. And this is an interesting find from my grandmother's library for many reasons. This particular book was published in 1955, and admittedly, even though I teach African American literature, I didn't realize until I started going through her collection that I mostly only teach Hughes during the Harlem Renaissance. Now, certainly I'm familiar with Langston Hughes's translation of Jacques Roumain's work. And in English, it's Masters of the Dew that is published in 1947. And certainly familiar with the Jessie B. Semple stories. But Langston Hughes was somebody who was born in 1902 and he lives until 1967. And so beyond the years of the Harlem Renaissance, he is publishing and writing and collaborating. So I think we see a little bit of this with some of these photographs. Today is May 10th, 2020, and it's Mother's Day. And I can't help but maybe share some of the images in here. They're black and white photos and they're absolutely fabulous. And so you can see here, this is Miss Mary's daughter, and she lives with Miss Mary's daughter and her son-in-law and their children. And so you see these pictures of these children with their mother and around the kitchen table. And also, what I think is really great about this book is that there's so many facets of Black life that you see that if you go a few pages away, you see this is Miss Mary, this is Sister Mary's son-in-law, and this is the baby, and there is this text that says that this baby loves his father so much that oftentimes he's the only one that can quiet the baby, and that oftentimes he will bring the baby into the kitchen and that baby laughs and loves, and then the next thing you know, both of them have dozed off And so these pictures of a father with his child, with his children, you see young women, young men, older women, people going to work, people going to a jazz club, and many, many scenes that you might see if you were in Harlem, observing from the stoop or from the window. And so we get this character of Sister Mary, who is a migrant from South Carolina. She comes to Harlem. She wants to make it home one more time before she transitions. And she wants to stick around because she's caught up in the lives of these people she's observing, almost like the title, this Sweet Flypaper. And I think that not only was this a treat finding this in my grandmother's library, but also discovering that she was a collector of Langston Hughes's work, almost like where the books that I have stopped, mostly centered around Harlem Renaissance. She has continued. And so in addition to this book, she has, this one is Simply Heaven. This is a comedy that was written by Hughes. She also has The Ways of White Folks and Something in Common. These are some stories that were written by Langston Hughes. And she also has The Big C, which is a common read of Langston Hughes. Now, in addition to those works published starting from the 1940s, moving forward, she also has some biographical works. And so she was not only interested in the work that Langston Hughes created, but she was also interested in how people wrote about his work and his life. And so here is Langston Hughes, Poet of His People by Elizabeth Myers. Here is a biography by Milton Meltzer, and this is one of the people that he also collaborated with in terms of, there was a pictorial history of African Americans, and so that was another collaboration of Langston Hughes. Here is Thurman O'Daniel's Langston Hughes, Black Genius. And interestingly enough, my grandmother also has The Life of Langston Hughes. She has the volumes 1 and 2 by Arnold Romperson. And this was also very interesting because you would certainly see the Romperson volumes, and she happens to have, this is volume 1, and then she had 2 copies of volume 2, which I was like, okay, I got that, honestly, having duplicates of books. But you would see this very easily in any literary scholar's office. But the fact that it's in my grandmother's library, I think, says something about the kind of reader that she was. Here's Before and Beyond Harlem by Faith Berry. And then here is a hard copy of that same Faith Berry book. So just out of looking at those titles, I can tell that my grandmother has more books by Langston Hughes than any other author in her collection. And so starting to think about how one builds a library, when you find a writer whose work you really like, you definitely are drawn to other works that come out and how other people talk about those works. I think for my grandmother, that was Langston Hughes. For me, it would be Aikwe Armah or Toni Morrison or Zora Neale Hurston. Those are three of the writers that come to mind that when something comes out by or about them, then I'm very quick to buy it. As a matter of fact, last summer, I was really thinking about Toni Morrison, like it's about time for another Toni Morrison novel to drop. And then there was word that, she had made her transition. So I love the way that I can go through my grandmother's books and think about ways in which she was deliberately thinking, I'm in this bookstore, oh, here's a book about Langston Hughes, he's one of my favorite writers, I have to have this. Okay, I see it in paperback. Oh, now I see it in hardback, I've got to have the hardback. So that's something that just wanted to share on this leg of this journey of going through my grandmother's library, and then also trying to share it with as many people as who are interested. So thank you, and thank you, Sarah Mack.